Let's do our final rest of season rankings video. For this season, we're going to rank everybody for the playoffs. Every position, one more time. Drop a like if you've enjoyed these videos. But let's start with running backs. S tier, don't need to talk about any of these guys anymore. They're all players that have done you very well this season. They'll do you well in the playoffs, and they are the top-ranked running backs for the playoffs this year.
Yeah, then the A tier is going to be a bunch of guys that they're either in committees like Jahmyr Gibbs, so they're going to have some really good games. They're going to have like 12, 13, 14-point games sometimes as well. Josh Jacobs, touchdown and 25 points, multiple touchdowns and 25-plus points, or no touchdown, and he scores, again, like 12 points. You've got guys like Kamara, Kyron Williams, and Chase Brown, who's just going to be consistently in this tier because that offense scores so many gosh dang points. Nothing has really changed here for the last few weeks.
B tier, we'll start with Chuba Hubbard. His role's really cemented now, and he probably will be a running back one for the last couple of weeks here with Jonathan Brooks going down. You've got Aaron Jones, Breece Hall. Breece Hall obviously has been disappointing this season, but it is what it is. James Cook, David Montgomery, and then we do have Bucky Irving here. Bucky Irving would be obviously a running back one. He is banged up and injured, though. We aren't sure if he's going to play in this next week, and so that would bump him down if he wasn't able to play. However, if he does play in week 16 and 17, that's going to be solid for him. The only reason, again, he's not a running back one is because he could potentially be injured, and we're just not sure at the time of recording this video.
Yeah, another issue we have with injuries is Kenneth Walker specifically, and he hasn't even been consistent when he's been on the field. Zach Charbonnet just looks better than him, but they love giving Kenneth Walker 90% of the work when he's healthy. So Kenneth Walker is going to be in the C tier, along with James Conner at the top, Jonathan Taylor right below him. Jonathan Taylor at this point is just getting a lot of yards, a lot of opportunities, and Anthony Richardson is taking away everything in the red zone. So kind of driving us crazy, but that's really that's where he belongs. Isaiah Pacheco, his usage is going to keep going up. And then Tyron Tracy is a solid running back getting all the volume in a really bad offense. So he's going to be more boom bust, but a guy that you're probably forced to flex every single week.
D's tier here, Najee Harris is going to be here. Najee's been fairly solid this year. Tony Pollard, he's been hit or miss, but he's been solid. Isaac Guerrero obviously went off in his first game, but he also is banged up, and so we're going to be a little bit conservative with his ranking just based on the injury. Obviously, if he's healthy, he jumps up here. And then Brian Robinson as well, and B-Rob has been, kind of hit or miss, but there's no Eckler there, and so hopefully that gets him going rest of the season.
Yeah, F tier, Rachaad White, again, you can bump him up a tier, maybe even two if Bucky Irving misses multiple weeks heading into the playoffs, but assuming that Bucky's going to come back and play, I mean, he was in his pads even after he got banged up. I think he's going to be okay heading into next week. That could change, but Rachaad White coming off a 25-point game was phenomenal. He really needs a lot more opportunity to be as productive and have the upside that he had last season. Until then, he's going to be a fringe flex option for you in the postseason. DeAndre Swift has had 3 straight weeks of mediocrity, and he's kind of been on a downward trend since he had that nice little stretch in the middle of the season. That offense is just not looking consistent or reliable. Ramondre, the definition of boom bust. Nick Chubb, super inefficient, is going to need touchdowns. Rico Dowdle looking better, but his ceiling's just capped, and that applies to Bigsby and ETN in the same offense as well. You're not really excited if you're flexing any of these guys.
Yeah, and then G tier, same thing. Edwards and Kamani Vidal, I don't think any of these guys have been productive yet.
Gus Edwards had a touchdown, and that was the only reason he had like 9 points.
Yeah, and so it was a tougher matchup, but with the schedule the rest of the season, he played Tampa Bay and then Denver and then New England. It's not great for him during the playoffs. No. And then Kamani Vidal, kind of the same thing. But Gus Edwards, it's worth noting that he only got 43% of snaps. Kamani Vidal got 53, and you're never going to know. You don't want to start any of those guys. Estimate, Hunt, and Spears. Let's go to wide receivers now. Again, same thing. S tier, congratulations. You made it to the playoffs with a lot of these guys on your team. I have 2 of these guys on my fantasy team because I'm obviously very good at this.
Nice.
But that's sarcasm, by the way. But these are guys that, again, you have them. Good job.
Yep, and then the A tier, Terry McLaurin is going to be at the top. Why do you have Terry McLaurin this high? The dude's a wide receiver 4 on the season. There's nothing else to be said. Nico Collins hasn't been as electric as he was before the injury, but he still has his big playability and upside. He still has crazy production opportunity every single week with CJ Stroud's volume and opportunity, so I think he's going to be fine. Mike Evans had a little down week last week. I think he's going to be fine again rest of season. He's still racking up the yardage. He's just got to get those touchdowns. A.J. Brown, more inconsistent, but with Dallas Goedert out of that offense, that helps every receiving asset between A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith specifically. So I think A.J. Brown's going to continue to do well. And then Garrett Wilson getting a crazy amount of volume. Tyreek Hill starting to look more and more like himself. And Drake London just so consistent at the bottom of this tier because he's, again, not doing anything special right now. Cousins is struggling a lot, but even amidst Cousins' struggles, Drake London has still been a mid-wide receiver 1, so just not going to have the ceiling that some of the guys above him have.
You got T. Higgins here to start the B tier. The Bengals continue to find themselves in shootouts. If you're getting in a shootout with the Cowboys, you're going to get a shootout with anybody. So T. Higgins is going to get a lot of volume. Cooper Kupp, kind of the same thing. They got in in a shootout with the Bills. Obviously, it benefited Puka Nacua a ton, but Cooper Kupp's also still getting a lot of targets there. CeeDee Lamb actually has proved that he can produce regardless of who's the quarterback. Cortland Sutton obviously had a bye week, but he's been extremely productive pretty much since Bo Nix found his footing. Jerry Jeudy as well. Jerry Jeudy had another touchdown this last week, and so going into the playoffs, you're absolutely starting him, and we got trashed for we had him ranked in the last video. He was just too low, and we recorded that before he went off on the Monday night game, and so that was the mistake we made. And then JSN's been a wide receiver 1 this year. He is still scoring touchdowns, so I do worry about what his floor is, but he is somebody that you're starting no matter what. All of these guys so far are guys that you're starting no matter what. So if you want to rank them any differently, I literally don't care. Could not care any less. You want to trash us because you're starting all of these guys. It doesn't really matter where we rank them, right?
Yeah,
so.
and the same thing's going to apply to the guys in the C tier. Devontae Adams, since the bye week, has had 12 and 11 targets respectively for 17 and 25 points. He has skyrocketed up our rest of season boards, and he's going to be ranked highly in every single matchup from here on out until he stops producing. Good for him. Happy for him as he goes to look for a new team probably this offseason. But George Pickens, the reason Pickens isn't a little bit higher is because he's got a grade 2 hamstring injury, and honestly, you could even knock him down a little bit more if he's declared to be out at least next week in the first round of the playoffs. He'll bump down, or he'll be knocked down a tier or two because he's costing you. So that's unfortunate with the injury. DJ Moore came down to earth as the Bears came down to earth as an offense. Rome Odunze had 2 touchdowns, took away from DJ Moore. He's still getting consistent targets, though. Zay Flowers, very inconsistent and boom bust. We've known that. He hasn't moved for weeks because, again, Zay Flowers, in that situation, we know what he is. Malik Neighbors, his ceiling is capped, but you're still trying to flex him every week. And then DK Metcalf, honestly, is falling down our rankings. You could put him in the D tier, honestly, and I wouldn't have an issue with it because he hasn't been producing since JSN has been so solid.
Jacoby Myers, you're still, in my opinion, flexing Jacoby Myers every week. Lad McConkey, when he's healthy, he's just got to get healthy, and that's the thing. Juwan Jennings has been productive, and honestly, he's somebody
he had a 28-point game.
I think that he's somebody that you definitely, he's a wide receiver 17 on the season.
Jeez.
And he missed 2 games. So honestly, but again, you're going to have the 8 and 9 point games like you had in week 12 and 13. So it's not outrageous to put him as a flex option and not, a solid starter, but he is definitely somebody that's one of your best flexes. So is Khalil Shakir, so is Brian Thomas, so is Jordan Addison, and so is Josh Downs. It starts to get a little bit hairier here, starting with Marv. Marv is, again, somebody you drafted to be the wide receiver 1 on your team, and you're looking at his production this year, and he's wide receiver 28. And so, he's been wide receiver 28 this year. You're looking at where we have him ranked at wide receiver 30. We expect him to do what he's done rest of the season, and unfortunately, that just means he's kind of flexible in most leagues. So
yeah, Darnell Mooney had a nice 20-point game last week. Again, he's going to be more a boom bust. He's going to finish as a wide receiver 2 on the season. Is he going to be that consistently in the playoffs? Very, very matchup dependent. That is going to be determined. So if you have to flex him, you're just kind of crossing your fingers that he's going to get some big plays downfield. A lot of his production, again, came from like that 50, 60-yard reception in last week's matchup. So Cousins has got to step up his game too and throw more touchdowns and less picks. Calvin Ridley has a couple really good matchups for you in the playoffs. Starting this week, he's taking on the Bugles. So he could be a wide receiver 1 this upcoming week. We're going to rank him high. Devonta Smith had a touchdown. That's nice for him. Jalen Waddle, again, not guys that you're super excited about flexing. Deebo Samuel still continues to not produce. And Cedric Tillman and DeAndre Hopkins are kind of wild cards right now at the moment. Hopkins coming off of a 13-point game. Tillman still banged up from that concussion and the injury. And Jerry Jeudy obviously hurting his production because he's really come into his own. So these are kind of last resort flex options, as are the guy on the G tier that I'll mention real quick. Jamison Williams, boom bust. Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, the definition of boom bust. Amari Cooper, he finally decided to get targets in the Bills' crazy game against the Rams. They're probably not going to score 44 points every single week. Jaden Reed is like straight up doing nothing. He hasn't done anything since like the first half of the season, it feels like. Michael Pittman is kind of a guy that you're looking to start if Josh Downs is out for another game or two, but we don't expect that to happen. And then Tank Dell, just a cap ceiling with Stroud and Houston struggling overall. And then the H tier, you've got a bunch of final guys. Last resort, you're probably praying that you can get through the week if you're starting Leggett, Coleman, Dobbs, Wando Robinson, Tyler Lockett, QJ, or Xavier Worthy, all touchdown or bust guys.
All right, let's jump over to tight ends real quick. S tier here. Bowers, McBride, Kittle. Almost put Njoku in here, but you're starting these guys every single week, and they're probably going to help you win a championship if you have one of them.
Yeah, and then the A tier, starting with David Njoku, he's had some of the most consistent target volume next to the guys in the S tier on the season. He's going to be a little more touchdown dependent again, but he's been super, super productive since he's come back healthy, and Jameis Winston has just provided so much volume. Jonnu Smith saved his week last week with an overtime touchdown. Travis Kelce, not the ceiling that he used to have, but he's really, really reliable and consistent. He's not going to lay a goose egg for you. TJ Hawkinson, kind of the same sort of situation as Kelce right now. JJ and Addison have kind of been switching off when it comes to who's going off. They both did last week, and Hawkinson was the odd man out this time, but he's been fine. And then Mark Andrews getting so much red zone opportunity at the moment.
B tier, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz has been solid this season. Pat Freiermuth continues to get some games where he has double-digit points with some touchdowns. Evan Ingram, better with Trevor Lawrence, but obviously we don't have him the rest of the year. Cade Otton has been, better without Mike Evans, to be honest with you, but still, worth putting on here. And Laporta's usage has been a little bit better either. You're feeling a little bit better about streaming Laporta. And then we'll wrap it up here with the last three tiers. Tucker Kraft, Cole Kmet, Dalton Schultz, and then you've got Kyle Pitts. What a fall from grace from Kyle Pitts. He's officially dead. Dalton Kincaid, he's also been awful this year from a fantasy perspective. Will Dissly, he's been come back down to earth, and so is Jake Ferguson. And then Noah Fant, Isaiah Likely, and Colby Parkinson. Let's jump over to QBs here. If you have the S tier, 2 words, last time, rushing upside. Congratulations. We're going to continue to put rushing upside quarterbacks in this tier, A tier.
Yep, A tier is going to start with Joe Burrow, who's been so productive. Tua Tagovailoa, who has been lights out the last month. You got to give him his respect. Bo Nix has some nice matchups on the home stretch here, starting with the Colts in week 1 of your playoffs. And then you've got Baker Mayfield, who's been consistent. Brock Purdy as well, outside of that dud snow game and being injured that 1 week. And then Kyler Murray has a nice floor with his rushing upside, not the ceiling that the other rushing guys have. He's been kind of so-so this year, but again, you're starting him pretty much every single week.
B tier, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, and Patrick Mahomes. All really pocket passer guys that if you have a rushing upside guy, you don't prefer to play one of these guys, but they are going to have some solid matchups the rest of the season. Same thing with the C tier. You've got 2 guys here with a little bit more rushing upside in Drake May and Anthony Richardson. Richardson is somebody that's a sneaky start every week right now with the fact that he's been getting more rushing volume. Sam Darnold, Geno Smith as well in that tier. And then the last 2 tiers here, Stafford, Wilson, Williams, Cousins, and then Stroud, Rodgers, and Jameis Winston, and Derek Carr. Derek Carr's not on this list, so not Derek Carr. Don't even put him on the graphic. But there you go. The full playoff rankings for you. Shouldn't need to do these again. We're going to do weekly rankings for you every week from now until the end of the playoffs. But super glad we've made it here. If you're watching, congratulations on getting into the playoffs, and we hope you enjoyed the video. Peace out. We'll see you later.